Hello. The topic I chose to research throughout this term was non-Christian religion in the Middle Ages. Some important takeaways that I've found throughout my research this term was how much diversity in religion there was in this era. There have always been different religions, even in a seemingly very Christian-centric time period, and a time period where non-Christian religions were prosecuted and punished. Another takeaway would be the importance of not just having diversity, but also being really ready and willing to learn from people with different backgrounds and viewpoints, and how we can apply that to society today. It did surprise me just how much religious diversity there was in this era and time period. Going into this class, I didn't really know anything about religion in general. I always just assumed that Christianity was always the most popular religion, particularly in Europe. I didn't know much about religion at all, or Christianity at all. But I've always been surrounded by that idea and very Christian centric society. I haven't heard much about any other religions, but just how much religious diversity there was surprised me, particularly Southern Europe, and how they were able to how they integrated Jewish people into society versus isolation. That was more isolation of Jewish people in Northern Europe, I believe, and how diverse that it really was in this age surprised me a lot. One way studying this topic has informed musical practices for me is understanding the sacred versus secular musical practices. Obviously, there are many musical practices that we studied throughout this term that Jewish people would not have participated in, like Catholic Mass. Jewish people wouldn't have been going to Mass because they're not Catholic. But it did make me think more about how, what musical practices, what secular musical practices Jewish people might have participated in this time. And which ones specifically and which ones they wouldn't have, which musical practices derived from that Catholic, that Mass setting or that religious setting, and maybe what traditions Jewish people or just non-Christian, non-Catholic people would have maybe thought about participating in, but not because of those origins. And thinking about that has helped to understand that difference between sacred and secular. One question I would still have, something I would want to further research, would be maybe the differences in daily life, specific differences in daily life between Jewish people or between non-Christian people and Christian people in this time period. Specifically, I would like to know more about the differences in Spain and Italy versus Europe in isolation and integration of Jewish people, and how that resulted in such drastically different environments for other religions, and how welcoming versus isolating those environments were, and how we can again apply that to today. I would also like to research more about paganism and that transition from paganism to Christianity. That really interested me a lot, that idea of how much paganism there was in this era. But I'd like to know more about that transition, because obviously it didn't just paganism didn't just disappear overnight. So I'd what did that prosecution look like? Was it forced? Was it voluntary? That's something that I would like to know more about in the future.